important for us to understand that Christians have a biblical worldview. And our parents and our teachers teach that to the children all day long. Now, when they go out in society, and if this HRO is passed, there will be tremendous confusion brought to our children because of the accessibility of our bathrooms to people of other gender. It does not make sense to me for us to allow law to take the raising of our children away from our churches and our parents, who are the ones who are supposed to teach the social graces that we should be living in. Now, this is really not about human rights. We already have laws for that. It's really about a political move to take control over people of faith and to build a totalitarian secular state. So we are not going away, as you see the pastors here and many Christian leaders, business leaders that are standing here. We have taken really a lifelong vow to stand up for our Christian rights, our religious rights. It is an attack upon religious rights, not just the church, but the everyday lifestyle of Christian people who live by a biblical worldview. I simply ask the City Council to recognize how strong an issue this is and to realize that we are totally against this and to vote according to what we really believe is fair for all. You see, culture does not judge the Word of God. The Word of God judges culture.
That's right.
So we need to stand together, and we are going to stand together for as long as it takes.
That's right. Amen. To the end.
Good afternoon, John Stenberger, Florida Family Policy Council. We're going to take some questions in a moment. I understand there's some folks here who are not media, but just are folks that are favoring the HRO, and so we're just going to take questions from legitimate media. But we do want to say three things. We anticipate one of three things happening. We think it's very possible that this just could die and never pass out. It's also possible that the mayor could veto it. We believe that he will veto it. And it's possible that there could not be an override. So it's possible that nothing could happen legislatively. It's also possible that Councilman Gulliford's bill could pass out, in which this will be a referendum probably in November, and we are prepared to deal with that. And then also, if the other bill passes out, we will immediately have a repeal effort going on. We've already collected at least 1/3 of the 27,000 petitions needed to create a network in order to do this. So that's where we're at procedurally in the matter. But at this time, we'll take any questions that you might have.
Is that what you were referring to as the petitions?
Yes.
These are right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could
Yeah.
you extrapolate just a little bit about the repeal and the petitions and that whole mechanism?
Yeah, so if the council were to pass this bill and it becomes law, we would need to collect 27,000 citizens to say we want to repeal this law on the ballot. So we're beginning to create that network by collecting these petitions of citizens that are saying, yeah, we're willing to do that. It's not an official petition, but we're creating the network to do that in real time and turn it around very quickly.
Do you believe that you have support currently from the council that they will vote to put this on the ballot?
I'm not sure. We'll have to find out. That's what we're here to do. Everybody's counting votes. Obviously, I think the mayor's stand is significant. We do think the city needs to move on. So I think that's very well that could happen.
Councilman Gulliford is saying that if Missouri's bill fails, he'll withdraw his bill and it won't come up again. I'm wondering, is that going to be a concern? Because then this will be an issue that will come up again in 4 years. And we'd heard too that you were thinking of doing a petition to get this on the ballot. That's not the case at all.
That's right. That's not the case. We believe it would be a good result for both bills to go away. If Councilmember Missouri's bill fails and Councilmember Gulliford pulls his bill, sure, it could come back. But we think with the leadership of the mayor on this issue, it should discourage this council from trying to bring us back year after year. I don't predict that Mr. Curry will change his mind. Jacksonville didn't need this ordinance in 2012. If anything, anyone who's awake knows that if anything, society has become more tolerant towards LGBT issues, not less. We need it even less today, and there's no expectation that as we go into the future, that there will be any more compelling need for it than there is now. So it would be a good result for both bills to go away now, and we hope that the mayor's position would discourage this coming back. And my name is Roger Gann. I'm a senior litigation counsel for Liberty Counsel, longtime Jacksonville resident, and I'm here to oppose the HR.
So if it is approved, you have the mechanism in place to put it on the ballots with petitions, and that would be a public referendum.
That's right. If the Missouri bill passes through the council and becomes law, we have built a network so that we can obtain the signatures necessary to repeal that law, just like happened recently in Houston, Texas, by a very large margin.
And you said 27,000 is the...
Approximately 27,000 is 5% of the vote in Duval County. That's how many would be required to get it on the ballot.
And then after that, it would, if that would go that course, it would be a whole new ballgame.
That's correct. There would be a campaign, and it would be voted on by all citizens in an upcoming election.
Derek Gillen, Jacksonville Business Journal. I heard a lot of talk about the religious aspect of it. My understanding is there are provisions in the current legislation, Missouri, Bowman, Love Bill, that would provide protections for religious entities and small business owners. Could y'all address that aspect of it and the fact that they're saying there would be no impact on religious organizations?
As we stand here today, churches in Jacksonville, Florida, church preschools that accept VPK money from the state of Florida are already considered public accommodation under existing Jacksonville non-discrimination law. Churches don't have a problem today under any of the existing categories. But as soon as this law were to pass, then those same churches, those same church preschools would be deemed public accommodations and would have to accept conduct, would have to accept people identifying with a particular gender identity that is directly contrary to the teaching and the doctrine of those churches. So there are provisions in both laws that are proposed that offer some religious exemption. They do not go near far enough. They wouldn't exempt any church that does weddings for non-members, any church that hosts community groups that are non-church groups. All of them would be deemed public accommodation. So those protections that are in place are limited to discrimination on the basis of religion. Nothing would stop a person from saying, I'm Methodist and I'm homosexual, so you must accept me in the church because I'm a Methodist. That's how these would play out. So the existing protections, they might protect a church organization, but churches are people. So those members of those churches who own businesses, who want to live out their faith in the community, have no protection whatsoever.
Is there room for compromise at all from either side?
The compromise is, it's a good question. We've never seen a version of a law like this that works. So if there is a compromise, I'm not aware of it. I haven't seen one proposed that works for churches and people of faith and provides them the kinds of protections that we think they deserve.
A follow-up question to that. You said that it doesn't work, and you haven't seen it work. Has anybody here, or have you called a city council or a city that has this HRO in place to see how it's working for them and what has been the feedback?
What we know is wherever laws like this are passed, we see litigation. You saw Baronel Stutzman a moment ago from the state of Washington. What we're seeing is the litigation that we see now is coming from jurisdictions where these laws have been around for a while, and so they're taking root, and people are starting to become targets. So Baronel Stutzman is a great example of someone who just wants to live out her faith in her business, doesn't want to discriminate against anyone, did not discriminate against anyone, but because she didn't want to participate in an event that would go against her convictions, she's being sued not only by the ACLU, but the actual state of Washington, and could take everything she owns. We don't want to see that in Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville doesn't deserve that, and Jacksonville doesn't need that.
Stephen Dever, Metro Jacksonville. I have a question for Baronel Stutzman's attorneys, and it's from our readers. And Ms. Stutzman apparently was fined $1,000 by the state of Washington for violating their local HRO. And she apparently has raised $94,000 in a GoFundMe campaign and is being a paid speaker to speak on this around the country. So I was wondering, where is the $100,000 penalty coming from, and was she paid to come here today?
She was sued both in her personal capacity, and her business was also sued, Arlene Flowers. So both the lawsuit she's facing by the State Attorney General and the ACLU are suing her as both her business and individually.
Is
and
there
so
legal fees, though?
the attorney's fees that
So your fees.
their amount could be the other side attorney's fees that of course would lose everything she owns could actually be well over $1 million. that was misclarification earlier. It's already well over $100,000 simply because you couldn't participate in this one event.
And is she being paid to be here today?
She is not. Thank you. And these laws pose massive fines to others around the country who are being sued under laws very similar to the HRO. Barronell Sussman is not the only client that is currently being sued. There's clients who own a bake shop in Oregon. They've just been fined $135,000. And in many cities and many states, there's not only a fine that these individuals have to pay, you also have to face jail time for simply trying to live your life according to your beliefs, which I think is a freedom that every American seeks to have and deserves to have protected by their government.
And I have a second question first of all, I'm so glad to see Ginger Sal back out in public again. Nice to have you out here today. And then as you spoke about the dangers of the bathrooms a little bit earlier, and in the hearings before City Council, we heard from one of the Evangel Temple members that he had a long history of molesting little boys in the bathrooms. And I'm wondering if our laws now don't protect from that type of behavior in bathrooms, how will expanding an HRO add to that danger?
The truth of the matter is that predators attack people in bathrooms, women and children primarily. That's a reality. It's happened in Jacksonville twice in the last few years, once at Best Buy, once at McDonald's. Logic tells us that if we make it easier for men to access women's facilities by merely having to either say he is a woman or dress like a woman, that the access will increase. The City Council has been provided today a listing of several headlines, mostly from the West Coast, where these laws have been around longer than other places, where there's multiple incidences of men dressing as women and engaging in voyeurism in women's facilities. Purdue, California, Oregon, the state of Washington. And all the cases are the same. These men are there participating in voyeurism. And the question is, for all the ones that are getting caught, how many are not? And the other question is, for all of the ones who are participating, these predators who engage in voyeurism, how many of them are simply one impulse away from acting instead of merely watching? So the City Council has information in front of it to really refute the charge that's been levied that this is all alarmism and it's all made up and it doesn't exist. It does exist, and the fact of the matter is, logic tells us that to make it easier for men to gain access, for predators to gain access to women's facilities. And we're not talking about men who actually identify as transgender. We're talking about men who simply want to dress up as women to gain access. It will happen more frequently, as we're already seeing it happen in jurisdictions that have these laws in place.
Can we get a specific example of when that happened here in Florida, where a man went into a woman's bathroom and said that he identified as being female in order to prey on women?
The examples in front of the City Council all come from jurisdictions where these laws have been around longer than any of the laws in Florida. So we have two examples in Jacksonville of predators attacking people in bathrooms. There was a Best Buy, there was a McDonald's, both within the last 3 or 4 years. So there's no question that predators attack people in bathrooms in Florida. What we're saying is that if you increase the ability of men to access a bathroom, if you make it a crime to challenge a man who's in a woman's bathroom because that could be deemed an act of discrimination, you're only going to enable these predators more. And we'd have to be foolish to think that a predator will not take advantage of any additional opportunity he can have to gain access to it.
But have we seen that here in Florida with it? Because there are HRO ordinances around the state. Have we seen that here in our state since we are in Florida? Has that happened?
I do not know if any voyeurs or predators have been caught in bathrooms before. I simply don't know.
Were either of those instances LGBTs that attack people in bathrooms in Jacksonville?
That's a good question. I don't believe they are. And in most cases, they're not people who identify as LGBT. These are simply men who dress as women so that they can gain access to the bathroom. The point here is not to say that LGBT persons, that homosexual persons or transgender persons are more likely to be predators. That is not the point at all. The point is that predators exist. Predators will take advantage of freer access, unchallenged access to women's facilities, and that's what we see.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for coming. We need to get to council as you do as well. One final comment. We have a document here we'd like to make available to you. Put that box up here, but it just shows hundreds and hundreds of incidents of threats to religious liberty around the country from these statutes and from others.
All right, yeah.
Happy to have that. Also, we gave you a copy of the document that was referred to regarding the predators around the country. Thank you very much for